Well, build my gallows and build them high. Makes a long time climbing before I die. I want the chance.
Hello everybody, welcome to Longbangers. I'm Matty.
I'm Colin.
I'm John.
You got a different tone on it.
I thought we were in a crescendo there.
I didn't say. I think you were just the same as me now.
Like a barbershop quartet, but with three.
I'm John.
I'm John.
Right, Sunday night, we've just, I suppose no long back for Easter Road, where we watched Hibs lose 3-2 to St Mirren. Looking shambles of a game again. So I suppose if we just jump straight into what we'll get like a sort of an overview of your thoughts from each of you first, and then we'll sort of pick the game apart. So, John, your thoughts on the game in general?
Shite. Fucking shite. Seriously. For the 10-15 minutes that we played, I thought we were really good, but football games are played for 90, so you're not going to win putting in that sort of performance, or it's unlikely that you're going to win putting in that sort of performance. St Mirren were really good. We were not.
The first half was terrible. Second half, apart for the 15-20 minutes maybe. I think I said 20 at the game, but I've no time that. I don't know if it was that long where we were all right. It was pretty poor. It was bad. But then, well, I'm sure we'll get on it. I've not looked at the talking points. I've seen some coming in, but I've not read them all properly. But when I seen the team, I wasn't that bothered that was the team. But I suppose in hindsight, you go, fucking hell, why did they keep the same team for Thursday night?
What did you think of the team, John? Because that was probably going to be my starting point, just to say, the only change really being Marshall coming back in. You know, he would have started on Thursday night had he been fit, but he made his first appearance of the season today. John, what do you think of the team?
Didn't have any concerns. I think what Colin said there about hindsight, everyone's got 20/20 hindsight. You would say, oh, we could have done this or we could have done that. But I think we've also said in the past that continuity is key. And we had a really good performance on Thursday night there that we were definitely looking for after the first leg of that European tie. We got it, and it just did not transfer into today.
Can I just ask, John, you said everybody has 20/20 hindsight.
Mm-hmm.
What about forgetful people?
It's like day with your eyes.
Well, just wondering.
You didn't go to the opticians to get your memory checked, do you?
Well, do you know?
I remember.
Do you know? All right, so we talked about this before, right, on previous podcasts. Like, you keep a winning team, and we've all been advocates for that before. And then, Colin, you were saying you didn't really have any problem with it, but then thinking about it now, you would maybe question it. What in hindsight, with 20/20 vision, what would you have done differently?
Well, that would have been a problem because I think I said during the game to you guys anyway that you look at the subs and you're going, who you bring on? I suppose Levitt, I would have probably started Levitt. Like I was saying, Johnson's kind of tired him with this, he's not fit enough thing because he didn't cope in Andorra.
Yeah.
We're all just jumping on it and assuming that that's correct. But Levitt's better than Doyle, right, whether he's fit or not. So Levitt, I would have started. Would I have started Boyle? I don't know. I mean, and that's controversial. That would have been a Johnson's out stuff if the team had came out and Boyle wasn't in it.
Mm-hmm.
But you think, well, he's just back for injury and we're throwing him straight in to starting games right away. Normally you try and break somebody into it. And he didn't perform, did he? Now, some of it might have been because he got stuck out of wing back as well. But even before that, he wasn't in the game. So maybe he needed the rest and maybe it might have been more impactful coming on for the last 20, 30 rather than the first 60 or 70, whatever it was he played. I don't know who would win. Lafondra maybe he would have started in instead. It certainly wouldn't have thought it would be Melkerson. I think he's well at the picture. I don't know. Levitt for Campbell or Doyle.
John, would you have made any changes in hindsight?
And by the way, Oviedo was okay in the end.
I think it's a tricky one. I would have played Lafondra ahead of Yuan up front, but I think Yuan was playing up front purely because of the sort of personnel changes elsewhere. Yuan up front alongside Doidge, like I don't think that they managed to connect with each other for a pass.
That was only after Johnson changed it all, though, because there was a three up front to start with. So for the starting 11, if you were changing it, you wouldn't have taken Yuan out of that, would you?
No, but that's what I'm saying. Like it's a tricky one to answer. That's a change that I would make, but the change that I'm talking about making is purely circumstantial because of some of the changes that took place before that.
Yeah.
And it's one of the things that we have to do is kind of pick over the performance and various different bits, but also you feel just really, really dejected after Hibs lose, especially in the circumstance that we did, because although we never started playing until about the 72nd minute, when we did start playing, it looked like we were going to win the game.
What about Marshall? Would you have kept with Boric after his performance in midweek, or do you think it was right that Marshall came straight back into it?
I think if the first choice keeper's available, he plays. I think that's just the rules, eh? That's just the rules of football.
It's a tricky one for the fans' perspective, because obviously Marshall in his first game in Andorra, he's practically chucked one in, and he's gone off. Sorry, he's not even made the next game because he's not managed to make it through the warm up. He's had a tweak or whatever. They don't wanted to risk him, and then you've had a situation today where I think had someone come through the back of him, and it's looked like, I think immediately afterwards he sort of parries one out, and he's holding his head, and they're getting checked, and we're talking about it in the WhatsApp group about head injury protocols and that kind of thing. I don't know. Like I don't know. Was Boric? Sorry, not Boric. Sorry, was Marshall at fault? Do you think for any of the three goals? Like, so if you look at the Andorra one, for instance, where he's just not held onto the ball, it's squirmed away, and they've scored. I don't think he's done anything. My recollection of the game isn't that he's done anything particularly wrong that's caused the goal.
So I thought at the game he could have done better with a third one, right? But I've since seen comments from folk who have seen the goal back to say actually he's pretty blameless with it. So I'm quite happy to kind of take that point of view. At the time, I thought he kind of got caught between coming and no coming for the cross, and then just got caught out in sort of no man's land.
We've got to look at the defence for that one. Calamity. Like Levitt let the cross come in. Jeggo watched it go over his head. Fish was paying attention. Hanlon was running back for somewhere else. It was a fucking calamity, and maybe if he had stayed in his line, he might have saved that. I've just heard that on the spaces. I was just catching up, and somebody said that he either stays in his line or he comes. But actually, quite a distance to come out. The boy's probably about the penalty spot. So
is he?
I think he could have stayed in his line, but I'm not blaming him in any way. And I'm like, I would if I thought he was at fault. He nearly threw one in the first half, like John said, after the guy clattered him. Like, because I was in the famous 5 up of the day, and I was like, fuck me, it was right behind it. So no, I think the third was harsh. The second one, he went down slowly, and the boy put through his legs. But again, I'm not saying it's his fault, because there was various others. Like Fish stepped out of tackle, Campbell fell over when the boy bumped into him. It was pretty poor all round, and you can blame the keeper for that. He's there as your last line of defence, but he never bailed anybody out. That was all.
Right, so the game got off to a terrible start. Really, like we never really looked like we'd settled into the game. Del Ferry, it was really weird, right? So I said this on Spaces, right, and I'll talk about it now. Playing it right back, I thought he started the game quite brightly. His first couple of involvements in the game were pretty good. He found good passes, had a couple of good touches, won a couple of tackles, but then he passed one straight out the pitch on the touchline when he was trying to find Boyle, I think. And then it was like his head went, because for the next however many minutes he was all over the fucking place, and his mistake led to us conceding the penalty. What do we learn about Del Ferry for that performance?
He's inexperienced.
Yeah, and I don't think he's a natural right back either.
I was going to say possibly a position, exactly.
I think he had a reasonably good game against Inter, certainly in the second leg, but I don't like Hibs were pretty much on top that entire game. I think perhaps one of the things that we could learn not to do, or certainly something I should learn not to do, is when Will Fish played sort of right back against Hearts, and he's kind of let Hearts come in and they've scored. I wrote him off then, like, no, he's fucking torture, get rid of him. And he was arguably playing out of position then. So Del Ferrier, I don't think it's fair to write him off after that game. Like, for whatever reason he's playing there. Maybe it's because Miller's not quite fit and Meg was still a little bit inexperienced, so they're looking to play Del Ferrier there. But I think he's still a decent player. However, I completely agree with your assessment, Matty, that he looked comfortable to begin with. He kind of started the game the way that he finished against Inter. Very, very comfortable on the ball. And then, as you say, he's passed one out to play. He's played himself into pressure. He's sort of turned back towards in fact, this might have even been the goal that we conceded, where he sort of turns back towards his own byline. And it just went fucking tits up for him for there.
That's a shout back to the starting team. Miller possibly starting as well. I forgot about that.
Do you think so? John, you raised the question about Miller's fitness, right? But he was on the bench, so you'd assume he must be able to play. Does the fact that Johnson played Del Ferry right back indicate that he just doesn't fancy Miller for that position?
I don't know, because he's played Miller before. Like, we've had Del Ferry, correct me if I'm wrong, but we had Del Ferry towards the end of last season when Miller started to break into the first team, and he was starting to become almost an attacking threat because of his long throw-ins and what have you. And he's not started at right back. Oh no, sorry, did he start against Inter at right back and then he picked up an injury? I'm trying to remember.
Over there, I think Miller maybe did start that game. Yeah.
He did.
So I don't know, it might just be like, so Lee Johnson talked about the Thursday Sunday games that are coming up, and with him taking off Boyle, as much as he's been ineffectual today, took him off after about 60 minutes, possibly to protect him from a fitness and injury point of view, with his recent surgery. But we've got a game coming up as well where he's presumably going to start. Is he maybe just trying to manage the squad?
Could be.
By playing Del Ferry in front of Miller.
I suppose we'll find out on Thursday, but
he's managing the squad by just playing the same team. He's not rested anybody. He just played the same team played Thursday night.
Aye. So I wonder if he had an eye on Thursday coming, though.
I
suppose that's the point, isn't it? Like, what about the penalty then? It went to VAR, quite a lengthy check, and the referee gives it. Have you seen it back?
Yeah.
Well, I've seen the video that's been shared on Twitter, and I think
seen it on the BBC.
Johnson's comments were, if you dangle a leg, and I think, was it Newell makes contact? It's a shitey penalty because it's not like he's cleaned the boy out, and I've mentioned that before. You get these shitey penalties, like I think if we reference Martin Boyle against Rangers in the semi-final, where he just sort of puts himself between the man and the ball.
Mm-hmm.
That's a bit of a shitey penalty to win, and it was a bit of a shitey penalty for St Mirren to win today, because Newell, I mean, as much as Newell makes contact, like I say, he doesn't clean him out or anything like that.
I think if you see, there's an angle on the BBC, and I know I'm going to. I didn't think it was a penalty when I saw that clip that got shared earlier off Twitter. But when you see it in the one on the BBC, the boy goes to put his foot down, and it's when he's turning and he's put his foot down, and Newell's foot takes his foot away from him.
Yeah.
It wasn't hard, wasn't heavy, but we'll get penalties like that this season, especially probably on Boyle and maybe Ewan, when they're quick turn and the defender just clips them. Now, we'll probably sit here and argue about them, and it'll go towards where did we get done by the referee, Player of the Year category, but that's the one there that I think is a penalty. It's soft as fuck, but that's what they give.
That's the rules.
I thought, I said this on Spaces, I thought it's one of these ones, right, that when it goes to the pundits and they argue, they'll say, well, there's contact, it's a penalty. Yeah. But at the same time, had the referee no given it, when they're doing the analysis, they go, as contact, but there's not enough there for it to be a penalty.
What they've done. Mate, I just watched it. I was watching Sports Scene, and then they showed you the Celtic ones for yesterday. Within a minute, Ross County no getting a penalty and Celtic getting one. Like Murray got clipped by Hart, but took a wee bit of the fall down because he was actually trying to keep his balance.
Mm-hmm.
If he just fell straight down, then he would have got the penalty, I think. Because he didn't get it, and then they goes, well, maybe there wasn't enough contact. That was the exact words the commentator used. Then they go up the road, the other end of the box, and they clips him, and it was a penalty again.
Yeah.
They got it, And you go, well, how did that one not penalty though? And that's what the Ross County players were saying, and that's what happened. But I think it's when they go and get to check it on the telly, they're no like there's obviously something there. That's why they've gave it. Otherwise, they would have went nuts. He slipped, but Neil stood in his toe or whatever you want to call it, and it took the guy's foot because he's on the turn. I hate saying it's a penalty because it's soft as fuck, like, and it's like he's hardly touched them. But you would, if it's us in a couple of weeks' time when we get one, we'll say, well, it's definitely a penalty because the boy was trying to turn and he was cutting back, and the boys took his leg away from him.
Aye, I thought it was soft, but I can see why it's given. It's like one of the I have, like I've said it before, but decisions like that, I can accept them going against us when they're like that, because you could argue one way or other, but whether it is or it's no, and the referee's got to make a decision one way or other for it. So penalty, boy tucks it away. Then what happened next was just fucking criminal. I mean, it's almost direct from our kickoff we fucking concede again. That's what it felt like. Like Campbell loses the ball. I think I shouted for a free kick, but I think it was a free kick. It's just
it's a bit of an aimless punt. I know it's not quite aimless, but Hanlon just punts it in the midfield, and Campbell struggles to control it, and the guy comes through the back of him to win it. But when I say comes through the back of him, not in a fouling manner.
Aye.
You know what I mean? Just like a wee bit physical, just a wee fucking shoulder sort of, and it wasn't even that much. And even Campbell looks embarrassed when he's getting back up. Actually, when you see the replay, it's almost like he's like, "Fuck, I hope nobody saw that."
The boy was quite clinical at finish day. That their number 20, he was what was his name? Alisanya or something, I think his name.
He was good.
He was very, very good. Good find for St Mirren. I think one of these signings, right? And obviously it's only the first look at him, and you need to see how he does over the course of the season. But it's definitely one of these ones you're scratching your head, going, "How do they find a striker like that?" And well, obviously they came out. What Vente's going to be like, he might be better, but you sort of think we must be able to afford the players that St Mirren are signing. It looks like a good bit of business.
I thought they had three players today that would play in our team based on today's performance, like the number 5 at the back and the boy scored the penalty, O'Hara, and the number 20.
O'Hara was excellent.
They were both all good. Aye.
Right, so we go 2-0 down. Johnson rings the changes. He takes off Del Ferry, he takes off Josh Campbell, puts on Dylan Levitt and Obita. Colin, you mentioned Obita looking good. I thought Obita for the first maybe 15-20 minutes it was on was hopeless. Like he
was.
He's like just had to find
in
the game. But
you can thank Carol. She jinxed him. She reverse jinxed him the day by writing him off just before he started banging the crosses in. So it was. She done well.
And we get in half time, but I still never thought we looked like we were playing our way into the game. I thought we looked less likely to concede after the changes. But St Mirren at this point, they're 2-0 up. They didn't really need to chase the game. But we went in at half time. Second half, I thought it was a slow start as well, though. Like, John, I mean, did we expect more of a reaction for the team, John, at the start of the second half?
Definitely. But it also, it's funny, after we had the Matty Jack interview and we were talking about, do you remember what the result was after the 8K game? So you've got a European game there, then you've got the regular sort of league business, and then we lost 1-0 to Livingston and obviously completely forgotten it and they missed the time. And it had that feel to it today. I don't know what it is. I don't know whether it's because we're really unaccustomed to it as Hibs fans, going from like doing the sort of Thursday, Sunday rotation of European domestic football. But as much as I would have wanted a reaction second half, I never saw it until like the 72nd minute. And then it was just like, the curtains had been drawn back and suddenly they realised that they were playing football and they knew what they were capable of. So you referenced Jordan Obita there. I saw him in the sort of final minutes of the first half and I thought, really? There wasn't much to him. And then second half, like once we started playing football, there was a couple of clever touches down to the left-hand side and there was a couple of really good balls that he delivered. And I'm thinking, Christ, like actually a decent player there.
Mm. I think, Colin, it was the introduction of Lefondre that really sort of shifted the balance in our favour, because all of a sudden there was somebody supporting Deutsch. And Deutsch whole with that first half and the first part of the second half was he didn't. They were shelling balls up to him. He was winning some of them, losing some of them. But even the ones that he won, there was nobody near him to kind of pick it up. It was just like a totally frustrating afternoon. But Lafondra came on and changed that. What do you think of his performance?
I thought he was decent actually. I heard you asking, did anybody get pass marks on spaces to Lex and part-time fries and that were on?
Yeah.
And I thought Doidge definitely, but Lafondra, even though he only played, I don't know, 20 odd, 30 minutes, 25 minutes, he probably came close to. He was decent when he came on, linked up well with Doidge. The goal was a good bit of play between. I think Newell played them first, and then they two, Doidge and Lafondra after that. It was a good bit of sort of striker play, like old-fashioned, two up front sort of style stuff. It was decent.
The sort of goal that you would have seen Andy Cole and Dwight York scored back in the Man United heyday, isn't it? Like that link up. It's funny because we were at the time. It's probably the slowest breakaway goal that you'll see this season as well. But they
You're talking about Christian Doidge thundering down the left.
Aye, but attacking ball in his left foot.
Aye, I mean, brilliant for the pair. And actually, Lafondra's ball to play Doidge in because it was right into his stride. And he found Lafondra well. His finish was good. I thought he'd maybe sort of sclaffed it at first, but actually he found the corner nicely. Got the crowds going once we got back into the game. That was really the lift that we needed. And then we pushed on and got the equaliser for Doidge. I'm trying to remember this goal because I think it was Yuan had sort of fired the ball back across goal and Doidge just turned it in.
It was a crossfit. Before that, it was one of your beaters crosses that Doidge went for, and it span out to maybe Levitt, who played it to Yuan, who had a sort of cross sort of style, cross shot, and Doidge swept it in.
I think by that point we'd introduced Diego to the pitch as well. And I don't know whether Diego coming on let Levitt push forward a wee bit to be there to sort of pass the ball to Yuan. Good goal. 2-2. You're thinking there's only going to be one winner here, eh?
Aye. Well, that was my wife, wasn't it? Because how many times have we? It always seems to be St Mirren and St Johnstone. They lose a fucking goal in the 89th or 90th minute to either draw or lose the game, eh?
Always seems to be a breakaway. Always seems to be a cross into the box and a header because we've been caught out at the back.
Aye.
I think most other times I've seen that goal, it's almost. I think it's never been when it's 2-2. I think most of the other times that I feel that I can remember it was when it's maybe been 2-1 to the opposition, and we're trying to get that second goal to get to level it up, and then they just kill it off and make it 3-1. I don't remember ever conceding one like that, and it being 3-2. It was a bit. Well, sucker punch is a bit of a cliche, but that's exactly what it felt like.
The irony of it is, I think it came from our free kick, and we got a free kick out in the east stand side. Yuan was about to play it quick, and Newell went over and was like, "Fucking stop!" Calmed it down, and got on the ball. And if I remember it right, because I've not watched the game back, Newell calmed down. Because I said to my old man, so "That's good for Newell there." Just sort of bit of calm head, just to no rush into anything. Take your time, and then get a decent ball into the box. Of course, he crosses it, the keeper catches it, bowls it out, they run up the pitch and score. It's like 10 seconds between me praising Newell for calming it down, and we're behind. And you already mentioned it was a calamitous goal to lose. One of the things we touched on in spaces, right? So you're 2-0 down, you get it back to 2-2 a few minutes left. What's your priority then at that point? Do you keep chasing the winner, or do you make sure you didn't leave the game with nothing? John, what's your stance on that?
Go for it. Full tilt, balls out, try and win the game. Again, seriously though, I still think go and try and win it, because we definitely had momentum in our favour at that point. We just scored, 2 goals in the space of about 5 to 7 minutes, say? And we still had, I want to say about 8 to 10 minutes remaining. Like, there was plenty of time for us to get another goal. It certainly looked like we had started to play football. We'd kind of shaken off the European cobwebs, if you like. And then, they've gone up and scored, and that's it. Game's over.
What do you think, Cole?
I agree to some extent with John. I think it's one of them where you go, we're still going to try and win this, but you maybe put an extra man back. Then so if we having one on two back and we go with three back rather than two, just like so you're a wee bit more cautious, but you're still. These are the games that we've spoken about over and over and over. We need to win.
Mm-hmm.
Home games against the bottom 8, and we've lost another one. But we shouldn't even want to draw it.
I think Johnson mentioned that in one of his post-match interviews. I was listening to them or watching them before I came on. There was BBC Sky, and I think there was maybe a PLZ interview as well. And he talked about St Mirren not being so far behind us that we can't give them. I'm putting words in his mouth here, but I think it was almost words to the effect of the respect that they deserve. I think he mentioned maybe perhaps the gulf between Hibs and say Inter, but the gulf between Hibs and St Mirren not being so big that we couldn't take it lightly. And I think his comments were that he didn't take it lightly, and the challenge was put to his players that perhaps you did.
Because it wouldn't be his fault.
Well, it's pretty much what I was just about to come on tonight. So before we go into the talking points that folk have sent in, a performance like that today, who do you like? Where does the blame lie for that? Right? Is it right that the manager should expect more for the players, or has the manager got to take responsibility for what happens on the pitch? John, I'll go to you first.
Is it a single answer? Is it a single point of failure? Or is it a multitude of things?
And answer however you see fit, mate.
Well, at the start of the show, we were saying that, or I was saying that he started with a team that played so well on Thursday. Like he trusted them to get that result in what could have been a very, very poisonous atmosphere afterwards if he'd gotten that wrong. So, okay, so you've gone out and you've scored 6 goals against Inter. I trust you to go and get a result against St Mirren. And they didn't do it.
Good news, Colin.
I don't think it's just him. He's got to take a bit of the blame. Like he's I was going to say he's admitted he was wrong with the team selection. He never really but he's got the team selection wrong, or the formation wrong, or the tactics wrong, or bloody all that. But the players were well off it. So, but then maybe their preparation for the game wasn't right. But was that him, or was that his support team? Was that the players as well, not taking it seriously, thinking it'll be, I don't know. So I think it's a bit of everything. I think you can just blame it on one person. He's accountable for it, but maybe the players are responsible for it. Project lingo.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Decent. I think that's a decent description. I think the challenge that he was putting down as well was around the whole Thursday, Sunday rotation. Like, if we want to get to the place where we want to be, which is regular European football, we are going to have to get used to it. And some of those players, if they're not up to that, will presumably be moved on at some point in the future.
Bad. Like, we're talking about fucking a couple of games on a Thursday. Like, and we're going on
at the start of the season. At the start of the season as well.
Aye, it's like, even if we get in the group stages, it's fucking 8 games in total or something. So it'll be 6. It'll be 12 games. That's all. Even if you play the group stages, it's 12 extra games. Like, a lot of these boys would aspire to play in the English Championship. Like, in the day, they play Tuesday, Saturday every week. There's no fucking chance. Just a couple of extra games. Like, fucking calm down.
I thought we looked off at one pace. Like, I think that's like I was thinking about this coming back in the car, right? See, Hibs obviously spend money on sports science, right? And all this kind of thing. They've all got the wee bras that they wear to track what they're doing. They have all the stats on their running and the sprints and all the rest of it. But the amount of times, like, see for that first half, St Mirren run over the top of us. They were stronger, they were faster. These aren't the players that are made expensive. It's not like you look at Celtic or Rangers where they go, well, they can afford a player that can do all these things, right? St Mirren, I don't even care whether they can pay what we pay for sports scientists, for example, whether they have all the same equipment or the rest of it, right? Are we one-paced by design? Is probably the question that I'm coming to here, John. Do you think that we set up and go, right, we can be consistently at this level for 90 minutes, but we'll not have those intense bursts of high pace, high energy?
I don't know. I feel like we've had this conversation before with regards to players that play for, whether it's St Mirren, St Johnstone, whoever, teams that are, I think as Colin described, like the sort of bottom 8, if you like. Like, how is it they're performing against us at a certain level but we are no with greater resources. And I think, Matty, you've said in the past that the gap between us isn't that great. And we've never really found an answer.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why is it with greater resources, with sports scientists and God knows what else, and training bras and whatever it happens to be, why are we just no better? I don't know. If we knew the answer, presumably we would be in charge of Hibs.
I do think
making the decisions for these things.
I do think the term training bra should be what we refer to that as from this point forward. By the way, I like how you coined that phrase.
Did I say training? Did you say sports bra and I said training bra?
I might have said training bra as well, but when you said it, I was like, we definitely need to retain that as the description for them. What do you think, Colin? Like, do you think we're? I don't know. Like, I'm trying to think. It's obviously not a negative, right? So if you're using sports, and I think Hibs look in good condition. I think the players look fit, and I think we are like really consistent. Like, I think when you get to 90 minutes, they look as fit as they did at 1 minute. Do you know, which is a good thing, you would think. But
yeah. So I think there's different things. I think there's teams that aren't maybe got as skillful. I'll focus more on their strength in that, but also. They've played competitive matches. We've just been fucking kicking about Andorra with shit teams. With a shit team. They've been playing the League Cup. So they're proper up to speed. We're not, because you miss out in the League Cup stages, which we obviously write off and say, they would have been the League Cup group stages. But instead, we play against a team for Andorra. We could get a bunch of boys together to get a game.
Yeah. This is one of those things that I find is a bit of a conundrum as well, because we're playing European football because we finished high enough up the league that meant that we qualified. And I know obviously there was a bit of jiggery pokery with Celtic having won the cup and what have you. But then if we play European football, and given our position within Scottish football and where we're likely to finish, we're always going to end up playing against teams from, say, Andorra, FC Coloma or Santa Coloma or whatever it happens to be, so that when we come into playing competitive football in the Scottish Premiership, we're going to be up against teams arguably like St Mirren, who are already playing competitive football, so we're already off the pace. Mm-hmm. What do you do about that? Like, do you just not qualify for Europe, so you're better equipped to play St Mirren on the opening day of the season?
Neither.
Or do you just be
I seen a tweet. I seen a tweet earlier that says, and I think it was the boy that plays maybe plays at Bonner. I can't remember his name. The guy maybe shouldn't say his name because he never tweeted this directly. But he's a player at League 2 level or junior level, and he's a Hibs fan, basically saying, "Fuck playing in Europe. We've got this Thursday Sunday thing, and we can't cope with it." And you're like, "That's what we play all season for. We qualify for it. Why would we give it up? Like, it's mad." But then there's maybe teams like us, Rangers and Celtic, obviously didn't want to play in the group stages of the League Cup because it's an inconvenience. They can go away to America and fucking Australia or wherever it is they go make their money. Right? We're not. We're hacking about trying to find matches because we've not got because everybody that we would normally play are playing competitive football in the League Cup, or the lower league teams. Dunfermline used to play Dunfermline in pre-season and that. They're not playing us anymore because they've got proper games to play. So we're having to go and play a couple of games in Spain against like fucking some team that we've never heard of or never hear again, and stuff like that. So maybe we should just say, fuck it, we'll play in the League Cup. Because actually, could we not have?
Well, if there's not a clash, I suppose you could have done. But
how many clashes was there? When we played in Europe this season,
no, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I think there was a clash. I think when the group games were being played.
The only clash would be if you were in the round even earlier, which could happen. But then surely you just reschedule it, wouldn't it?
Aye.
But then you're then saying, "Fucking did he get a buy into the last 16 and taking the risk of going out?" But then is the risk when Hibs have had good seasons? They generally have a good start to the season, and I mean, when the League Cup was all done by October.
Aye.
Hibs had a good record. I never won it loads, but they were semi-finals, finals regular because it was all about a good start to the season. Now we're coming into the season cold, I think, because that Inter Coloma, as much as they beat us, so we've got to remember that. We're right. I'm saying they're shite, and we could get a group of boys together. They beat us, but again, that could be because we weren't ready for it.
Because we haven't played in the League Cup.
Because we've not played enough hard games.
But then the manager said he was happy with pre-season. He said we'd had a good one. He'd learned the lessons for last season. So,
well, what was the lessons for last year? Did he play in the League Cup?
Well, Get the players back early. That's what he wanted last time, wasn't it? They wanted them back a couple of weeks earlier than they got them.
Were they that earlier?
I don't know. Right. Well, we will, like on extra time, right, for subscribers, we're going to talk about whether or not Johnson should remain in post, right? What today's result means for him, right? And not in a reactionary way, not a knee jerk. We're going to kind of look at, I suppose, the body of evidence for and against Lee Johnson, right? I'll go to the talking points, right? Because the first one comes from Kaiser Soze, and it just says LJ clueless, right? Is Lee Johnson clueless, Colin?
At what?
Well, that his job is, I guess, what the inference is there.
So I think the media part of it seems to do quite well because the press like him. He manages to get his story across and never take the blame for anything. So he's quite good at that. Getting results, still on the fence on that one because he got us into Europe, not the good European place, which is why. But that just contradicted the whole thing, because fucking Hearts went to St Johnstone and won yesterday.
Aye.
And they've not played a competitive game at all because they didn't even get to play against Inter fucking Scala or whatever they're called. So it's. But anyway, I've not decided. I still can't decide on if he's good or not. I'm trying to pick away all the shite to come back to it. But the results aren't good enough, are they, really, when it comes down to it?
I think that's the nub of it, right? John, I'll give you the next one. Right? Ian T says, for a manager who confessed to reading up his history of Hibs, should he not be surprised either players and himself getting it right? Lawrence Riley even recounts feeling the wrath of a Hibs support in his autobiography. Why should lesser mortals be exempt? I draw the line on abuse. And should we expect more of a manager who never shies away from telling us how many games he's managed, yet if he can't seem to learn from his mistakes?
It's a question.
but there was a lot of words. Respectfully, there was a lot of words there.
I think the question's right at the start.
Could you repeat just that opening part, and I'll respond to that bit?
I can, right, but I'm not sure I figured out what the question was. Sorry, Ian. It says, for a manager who confessed to reading up his history of Hibs, should he not be surprised either players and himself getting it tight? I think it's a typo. Getting it right, but I think it means getting it tight. So should Johnson be aware of the reaction that a result like today and away at Inter provokes from the club for the fans?
How would a manager go about? How would a new Hibs manager go about learning about the wrath of the Hibs support after, say, losing to St Mirren? Like, because I do take the point on board about having read about the history of Hibs, and I definitely mentioned it last year in the podcast when I talked about, I think it was maybe like playing games against the likes of Falkirk, for example, and how they make it difficult and etc. etc. I can't remember exactly what it was that I said, but I definitely mentioned Johnson reading up on his history. But yeah, how does a manager go about finding out how badly fans will react to shitty results like today?
All fans do it though. It's not Hibs fans, is it? Like, it's Hibs fans, Hearts fans, Rangers fans, Celtic fans. A lot of fucking nuts at a result like that, do they? Relative for their team. So if he's been in football as long as if he has, the way I was going to phrase that made it sound like I doubted that he'd been in football for that long. Right? I didn't doubt it. He's telling the truth. Like, he's been in football for a long time. He'll ken, or he should ken exactly how fans react when you get a bad result. Colin, right? Gavin Skeen said, have we ever had a manager whose charmless blame-shifting interviews enrage the fans as LJs do?
I've got to say, like, it's starting to grate on me, and I'm normally quite slow with it, but it's no taking any. In fact, I was going to say it's not taking any blame, but it's almost like he starts to take the blame, but then in the same sentence he manages to blame somebody else. It's like he even started saying the day, I'm taking the blame for that team, that the changes I made the difference. Right? Mm-hmm. And then I took the decision making away for the players. We just basically told them if I can kick it along to Deutsch. And so they're all fucking hopeless. I changed that. That's good. Well done me. And then I told them just to kick it to Deutsch, and that was working. So well done me. Everybody else was shite. That's
Was
what
that
comes. That's a reading between the lines. Sorry, John. Twice I've done that to you.
No, that's okay. I was interrupting your point. What I was going to say was, I'm not too bothered. I know that there's been a bit of a David Brent thing that's been applied to Lee Johnson in some of his post-match interviews. I was alright with his post-match interviews today, listened to what he had to say, took some of the points on board. The bit that fucked me off was when he started talking about defensive protocols in regards to St Mirren's winner. What are you talking about? And I wondered when I thought to myself, what are you talking about? I wondered, is that some of the terminology that's maybe used when a coach goes and does their coaching badges like A, B, C, whatever it happens to be? Do they talk about defensive protocols and that? And we're just maybe not used to that terminology being used within press interviews. And if it is, why aren't more managers, more coaches using that sort of terminology?
What defensive protocols do you think he was referencing?
Mark your man,
I don't know.
either way.
Mark
surely
it,
it must be.
Defend.
Yeah, I know what I mean.
Didn't give the boy a free header for the penalty spot if you could at all avoid it. It feels like those are protocols we should be getting right more than we are at the moment. Beldam Lascar, John says, feels like Groundhog Day. New players come in, same problems, could see their winner a mile off because we've seen that happen so many times before. What's it going to take to lose the soft touch?
Maybe the new players that played today, though.
Well, we finished with new players, didn't we? Like if we had Abita and Lefondre and Levitt are the three. I've no counting Fish and Yuan because they were here last season. I don't think I'm being unfair in not including them. But and that's a worry as well with the starting lineup. I think we said it before the game on Thursday night, and it wasn't a complaint. I tried to make this clear on my tweet, right? Saying just an observation, but they had no new signings other than Fish and Yuan in that starting 11. The fuck's like.
It's mad.
Fuck's the point in spending what we spend on players to just no fucking play them? And I get you, some players are injured and you can't do anything about that. But fucking hell, like, how are you? Where's the progress? Like, how do you evidence the progression of the club and the squad when even today, like, you're starting and there's an unwelcome familiarity to that team almost.
Well, mate, I think in particular, right? And now we've all got everybody. Everybody's got their own favourite, I suppose, of that midfield trio. Everybody's got somebody. I think everybody likes Joe Newell now, right? Everybody's came into that one.
Yep.
There's folk defend Campbell. There's folk think Campbell's shite. Same with Doyle Hayes. And yet we're back to like the Jack Ross Maloney days with that. Like, and we're back with that three again. And he's had to hook one after 30 minutes. And 2-3 years ago, folk were saying, I don't want to see that midfield over again.
Aye.
And you fucking played it. First game of the season. Like, fucking first game of the season. This is your best team. That's what the first game of the season normally is. This is the best team available to us.
That's what you got to look forward to.
That is Groundhog Day. Like, Beldam would describe day, like, oh, God.
Now, Neil's really been more consistent. Doyle Hayes is a 1 in 10 guy from my point of view. And the 10th game that he has is usually excellent, and it makes folk go, oh, he's fucking got something. But he's got to wait another 9 games before you get that. Again, from my point of view, I hear folk talking about him the day coming out, like, what's he bring? He gets booked, and then you go, oh, fuck, Doyle Hayes is on the pitch. That's what I see for him. And he was ready him last season. He was in the team for the start. Ahead of the fucking one of the superstar signings for the summer
that he's brought in. It's interesting. So Doyle Hayes and Campbell as well. So we were talking about it coming into the game of the day. I was saying like Campbell can have games where he's like anonymous, but pops up with a goal, 2 goals, right? And goals are invaluable, right? Again, it's like the cliche, isn't it? They win you games, but if he's no scoring goals, then you're struggling because he's not giving you loads else, unless it's like he does have like a really good game now and again. But do you sacrifice the goals for that, or do you say that actually you as well having him in because we might need him to pop up kind of the edge of the box somewhere and fire a header in or fucking whatever. Doyle Hayes, I agree with you, Colin, is like when he's good, he's really, really fucking good, and you think
we used to say this about Joe Newell. We used to say it about Joe Newell, but I think he's more inconsistent than Joe Newell actually.
If he could hit it all the time, we'd be fucking laughing. A terrific player. But then you say the same with Jago. Like, Jago sometimes is a good game, sometimes is a game you're like, fucking hell. Like you say, we brought in, like, so the last two midfielders to come in are Levitt and Jago, and neither of them start the game today. William Turner says, probably on the similar lines. William Turner said, do we have the squad depth and quality for Europe and the league this year? We definitely need some youth in there, as today's lineup proves. Bar Ewan and Boyle, we have no pace. Squad depth, John, what do you think?
I'm not sure it's fair to say that we have no pace if you didn't see Christian Doidge's run down the left today. Left his marker for deed. But no, I do take his point. Like the pace, I think today the thing with the pace was that it was completely nullified by moving them both to wing back. Like you just got nothing from. Like we weren't getting much from them prior to that. You got nothing from them after that. Like this is the thing that annoys me is that, to go back to the previous tweet that you mentioned about Groundhog Day, like we are having some of the same conversations, having the same sort of difficulties as we were last year or last season, or a couple of managers ago, and I genuinely don't know what the answer is. Like you feel like you make a little bit of progress and then suddenly you're back at square one, and I don't know whether if that comes back to the whole Streaky Lee sort of mystique around the manager. Mystique's maybe the wrong word, but you know what I mean. Where you seem to be going somewhere and then suddenly back at square one.
Cannon Hannon said it was spent 2 million, no further forward, no signs of improvement. That's a real worry. Colin, is that fair? Because a big chunk of that was on Vente, who we've not seen yet.
Yeah, we don't have 2 million, do we? Like, I mean,
so
what's that, 700 grand for Vente and 600 for Yuan or something?
Levitt was a fee as well.
Right.
I'm not sure what else we've had to pay for, yeah.
But then I suppose Rangers have spent a lot of money this year, and they're saying, oh, maybe they've not had time to settle in yet. That was their excuses, wasn't it, for last night? So maybe we're not expecting it to be hitting day one.
Especially
when half of that money's not getting played because he's fucking doing an English test or something.
Aye, mentally. Elston Loon just had said, "Will Fish?" ? Yes.
No, based on the day.
No. He was suspect today, yeah. Even like I thought some of his decision making was poor today.
I actually thought he got away one the other night. I came on talking about the Inter game, but he headed it back and Boric's reactions were good. But the two of them were talking to each other and he got away with that. The night of the day, I thought when the midfielder was coming through for the second goal, he could have just run into him and it would have been a foul. He wasn't getting sent off because Hanlon was coming across.
Aye.
And he just thought, we'll just let the guy go. And then the goal as well, it wasn't just him, but he is the centre half and he's left it. Jake was totally misjudged the cross, but he's the centre half that's back because Hanlon's obviously going to live forward, and I think he's got to do that. But he's a young guy and all that. But you know what? We were expecting more than that from him, weren't we?
I think so. Mikey Love, John said, is playing a midfield three of Hayes, Newell and Campbell acceptable when the gaffer has said it doesn't work in the past? Swap Hayes for Jago or Levitt since they tried to sell Hayes in January. Only other system with this squad would be 4-4-2, Johan, Doidge, Alf, Boyle. Is it acceptable? We've covered that. You think we've spoken enough about the midfield three?
I think the only thing that I would add to it is the point around Lee Johnson having done his history homework on Hibs. Like the three that we're describing, I think there's like a little bit of a positional change between the three of them. I think Newell sits a little bit deeper and is trying to dictate the play from deep. But if nothing else, like you might say that the optics of those three together on the team sheet are just rubbing folk up the wrong way, because it hasn't worked previously, and regardless of where they are positionally now, it's clearly still not working. It's not as fluid as you'd like it to be.
Right, Colin, this one's for you. Eddie said, is it acceptable, would you swap losing the first 4 domestic games, St Mirren, Motherwell, Wraith, Rovers, Cup and Livy, if it meant we qualified for the European group stage?
I think I would trade that. I think I would take that deal for the money that would bring in, and I would take the chances that would gain those 9 points back
over the course of the
Just-
at
season.
some point. Mm-hmm.
I just pictured you having a chat with Noel Edmonds there.
I know, that's
Bugs.
went from the banker. There's a banker there. The banker's going to be on the phone saying, I'll give you the Rovers as well.
John, where do you stand? Would you take progressing in Europe ahead of the domestic games there?
The only thing is that, right, John considers that. I can see him looking up to the sky pondering, would the managers be able to survive that? Because that would be like that toxic sort of stuff in the stadium, losing bottom of the league at that point, and then we're going, man, we've not even played Rangers, Celtic, Aberdeen, Hampshire, right? That would be all that, but then we've got fucking, I don't know, I don't even care who's in it, but fucking Aston Villa or something coming to Easter Road, and fucking some French team or some Spanish team or something.
Aye.
What I was considering is exactly what Colin was describing there, the impact on Lee Johnston and the atmosphere for the stands towards him. But if it was a binary choice, of course you would, because of the if it was a binary choice, you never thought there was no other factors at play. It was just a straight, you lose these games, you get into Europe proper. You would take it because of the money that's on offer that could progress the club. But it's no binary choice.
Imagine it, like we're bottom of the league, we're out the cup, and then like fucking Aston Villa come up and take 6 of us. Like what happens in these stages? These teams mind that Italian Fiorentina went to Tynecastle and fucking demolished them.
Aye.
Yep.
And that's what you've got. That's what you've got coming, eh? So it's
That's
just
your
like
reward.
fuck with people, and we can't even beat fucking Aston Villa.
Man on the spot said Krypton Factor was easier to work out than LJ's Tactics Imposter. What would be good if kind of the warm-up's got a wee bit stale. It'd be good if they had the assault course for Krypton Factor, and that's what they did for the warm-up. So you have like kind of half the team doing that, and the subs are in the flight simulator.
Get one of the a jigsaw one.
Maybe they could rotate that every week. Just have Channel 4 game shows. Get the Crystal Maze in there as well. Have them solve some puzzles for what was it? The silver and gold nuts.
Aye.
We'll not talk about pointless, eh?
Well, Jamie McGovern said Lee Johnson has had this side for 2 and a bit transfer windows. He regularly complained that the side wasn't good enough. Has anything changed in that time? Surely if things continue, he'll complete his 3rd window and he can't have a 4th.
It's not much changed, and he's still saying the same stuff, isn't he?
Mm-hmm. Nick Heller says terrible for 60 minutes, good for 28 minutes, awful for 30 seconds, final whistle. Good description of the game, I think there. Adam Lafondra, saviour or sticking plaster? Colin.
In general, or today?
In general, I think.
Sticking plaster. The guy at his age coming in, he's no long term, is he? We've bought a guy that's getting paid a lot. Well, we've paid a lot of money for. So he's just there to fill the gaps.
Jonathan said, albeit as an upgrade on Lewis, he needs to start games at left back, yes or no?
Jury's out based on one poor, when he joined in the first half, pretty poor. Second half looked better. So jury's out for me. Maybe long term, like Lewis can't last forever.
It was a good response to a straightforward yes or no question, John. Well played.
Thanks.
Was
that considered enough? Was that something that Colin might say?
I would say yes.
Colin, how would you have answered that question?
I wasn't asked because he said it was John, but I would say that Abia didn't play left back today. That's what I would have said. So I don't know what he's like at left back.
Fair dues. Okay, right. Dawson said, how much longer do we give Johnson? Because to be honest, I've had my fill of him, and his aftermatch interviews are shocking. I really don't know what games the guy watches. Gavin Dunn said, is he still here? Get him to fuck. Thomas said, sign an experienced centre half who's not close to retiring. And Hibs Tart, the last one, said, however, we're still playing the same midfield 3 that weren't good enough under Maloney, JDH, Campbell, and Newell. We will be talking about the Lee Johnson. How is he still here, or should he still be here, and what needs to happen going forward for him to retain his job in extra time. If you want to listen to that, go to our Twitter link and click Twitter bio and click on the link there. You can subscribe from just £2 per month, or if you don't want to go to Twitter, you can. It's called X now. I know nobody's calling it X yet, are they? You can just go to longbangers.hubwave.net and sign up there if you want to go directly. You need to do HTTPS at the start, just as a wee FYI. Right, we're going to go and record that. It's getting late now on a Sunday night, so we won't dwell on this any longer. Thanks for tuning in, folks. Thanks, everybody, for your comments, and we will see you next time.
Well, they trailed me down when I broke free. I drank all the whiskey in Tennessee. I don't drink water, no